They told me sugar was the enemy. But no one ever told me that some grains can actually pull sugar out of your blood like a sponge in a puddle. That's right. Not all carbs are troublemakers. In fact, a few of them are like secret agents, cleaning your blood, guarding your heart, and oiling up those creaky joints. And the best part? They're old-fashioned, humble grains, many of which your grandma probably cooked with back in the day. I used to think grains were just fillers on the plate. But after my knees started popping like popcorn and my blood sugar kept rising, I knew I had to change. One quiet afternoon, while stirring a pot of oats with cinnamon, I felt something shift. Energy came back. My hands ached less. I started digging deeper and, thank the Lord, I found 7 miracle grains that did more than just feed me. They helped rebuild me from the inside out. If you're over 60 and tired of stiff mornings and sugar spikes, this list may surprise you. If this sounds useful, share it with someone you love and leave a little thumbs up. It really helps. Number 7, Farro. The first time I tasted Farro, I didn't expect much. Looked like a rougher version of rice. But when I cooked it slow with a bit of garlic and olive oil, the smell reminded me of my mother's Sunday roast, warm, earthy, filling. Funny how food can take you back 50 years in a single bite. Turns out, Farro's not just hearty, it's healing. Full of fiber and those little antioxidants that help clean the inside of our pipes, just like vinegar in an old coffee pot. I had no idea something so ancient could be so powerful. Some folks think Farro is just another trendy health food. But let me tell you, this grain has been around for over 10,000 years. Roman soldiers marched on it. My own grandfather used to talk about old grains that kept folks strong through winter. That strength, it comes from the magnesium, the iron, and vitamin B3, all packed tight in that little chewy grain. Since adding it to my dinners twice a week, my energy feels steadier, and I'm not as breathless walking up the porch steps. My wife, bless her heart, was skeptical at first, said it looked like birdseed. But now she asks for it when her knees start acting up. Farro isn't just filling, it's comforting. It helps with blood sugar after meals, too. I tested it with my glucose monitor, and it didn't cause that spike I usually get with potatoes or white rice. It's like Farro walks in calmly, instead of barging through the bloodstream like a sugar storm. Makes you feel like your body's finally working with you, not against you. These days, I mix it with roasted carrots and a spoon of apple cider vinegar, a warm bowl that seems to hug you from the inside out. I've noticed my joint stiffness eases up, especially in my hands. Could be coincidence, but when something tastes good and makes your fingers move better, it's worth keeping on the table. Farro isn't a miracle by itself, but it sure feels like a missing piece in the puzzle. I thank God for leading me to something so simple, so old-fashioned, and yet so right for these aging bones and blood vessels. We don't always need something new. Sometimes, the answers are tucked away in the grains our great-grandparents trusted. And Farro? Well, I'll just say this. I don't see it as a side dish anymore. It's become a quiet hero on my plate. Number 6, barley. There's something honest about a warm bowl of barley. Not flashy, not fussy, just dependable. I remember my mother stirring it into beef stew back in Ohio winters, thick and steamy, with the windows fogged up. That scent, beef, bay leaf, and barley, filled the whole house. I never knew that same grain, the one that helped to survive leaner times, could one day help manage my sugar and ease the pain in my elbows. It's humbling to think the answers were always in our pantry, not in a pill bottle. Barley is loaded with beta-glucan, a kind of fiber that works like a traffic cop inside your body, slowing down sugar, smoothing out cholesterol, and keeping things moving steady. I didn't believe it until I swapped my morning toast for a little barley porridge with cinnamon. The next blood test? Lower numbers. My doctor raised an eyebrow. "What have you been doing different?" she asked. I just smiled and said, "Breakfast looks a little more like 1950 these days." Simple, but it works. What surprises most folks is how barley also helps your gut. It feeds the good bacteria in your belly, the kind that helps break down food properly and keeps inflammation at bay. And when your gut is happy, it shows up everywhere. Better moods, less bloating, even less swelling in the joints. My right knee used to scream after mowing the lawn. Now, just a whisper. Maybe it's not all the barley, but it's been part of the change. I believe the Lord gave us these humble grains for a reason. Some mornings, I toss cooked barley into scrambled eggs with spinach, or add it to chicken soup when the grandkids are over. They think it's rice, and they eat it right up. My daughter says it helps her with energy crashes too. That's the beauty of barley. It sneaks into your meals without demanding attention, but it leaves a mark. Not flashy, but faithful. It's like the old boots in my closet, worn in, reliable, and built to last. Looking back, I'm just grateful I didn't ignore it like I used to. Barley sat on that grocery shelf for years while I chased shiny new health trends. But turns out, the old ways still have a place. Since bringing it back, my mornings feel smoother, my sugar's more stable, and my joints don't bark so loud. That's a win in my book. Thank the good Lord for grains with grit. Number 5, Amaranth. Funny how the smallest things can make the biggest difference. The first time I cooked amaranth, I thought I'd done something wrong. The little grains turned soft and kind of sticky, like tiny pearls in cream. But the taste? Earthy and nutty, almost like corn-meal oatmeal. My wife said it reminded her of a porridge her grandmother made during the Depression. Turns out, amaranth has fed families through tough times all over the world. And now it's helping folks like me rebuild from the inside out. What really caught my attention is how amaranth helps with sugar. It's rich in protein and fiber, so it slows down how fast sugar hits your bloodstream. That means no roller coaster crashes mid-morning. I used to feel tired by 10:30, hands trembling if I skipped breakfast. Since switching to a small amaranth bowl with cinnamon and blueberries, I feel steady, like my body's not fighting me every hour. It's a quiet kind of strength, and that's just fine with me. But there's more. Amaranth holds something called squalene. It's not a fancy word I use often, but what it does is real. It helps protect the heart, almost like a coat of armor for your blood vessels. I notice my chest doesn't feel as tight after climbing stairs, and I don't huff and puff so much. My doctor told me that kind of circulation support isn't common in grains. Just another reason to be thankful for this little gift from the earth. And if you've got aching joints like I do, amaranth might become your new best friend. It's naturally anti-inflammatory. I didn't believe it at first, but after a few weeks of adding it to my stews and veggie soups, I noticed my hands weren't as swollen in the mornings. I could actually grip the coffee pot without wincing. I even opened a jar without calling for help. That's something, isn't it? Not a miracle overnight, but a gentle nudge in the right direction. Some blessings come quiet. Amaranth isn't loud or flashy. It won't be on TV commercials or take over the grocery store. But it's there, steady, healing, and faithful, like a good friend who shows up when you need him most. I thank God I gave it a try before giving up on my joints and blood sugar. Sometimes, hope shows up in a spoonful of something small. Number 4, buckwheat. Buckwheat ain't wheat, and it sure surprised me the first time I tried it. I bought it on accident, thinking it was just some fancy flour. But when I toasted those little triangle seeds in a skillet, the smell filled the kitchen, nutty, deep, almost like roasted coffee and cereal mixed together. Took me straight back to camping trips in the Smoky Mountains, where breakfast came from cast iron pans and smelled like wood smoke. Funny how old memories find new meaning in a single grain. I read somewhere that buckwheat is packed with something called rutin, and that caught my eye. Turns out, rutin helps strengthen blood vessels, like tightening loose screws in an old porch railing. Since I started eating it once or twice a week, especially my pancakes or as a side dish with greens, I've felt less tightness in my chest, and my legs don't tingle as much when I sit too long. My circulation's gotten better, and believe me, that's something I can feel when it's missing. One day, after a big Sunday dinner, I checked my sugar, and it barely moved. That was a shock, since I'd had a buckwheat casserole with turkey and sweet onions. Normally, anything with grain, and it sends my glucose flying. But buckwheat, it kept things level, like a calm lake with no ripples. No crash, no sleepiness, just steady energy to wash the dishes and walk the dog. I thank the Lord for every meal that lets me feel normal again, like myself. Another thing buckwheat brings to the table is joint support. It's got zinc and copper, minerals that help build collagen, the stuff your joints and skin are made of, My elbows used to crack and click every time I reached for a mug, but lately they're quieter. Could be luck, could be the copper. All I know is I don't dread opening jars like I used to. Even my neighbor Earl noticed I don't groan as much getting out of the truck. I once laughed at the name Buckwheat. Sounded like something from a cartoon. But now, it's a trusted friend in my kitchen. I've learned that sometimes the funny-sounding foods are the ones God tucked the most goodness into. I may not understand all the science behind it, but I know how I feel, and that's proof enough for me. Number 3, millet. Back when I was a boy, we fed millet to the chickens. I never once thought to eat it myself. But years later, when I was trying to find something gentle on my sugar and easy on my joints, millet came back into my life, this time on my plate. The first spoonful was soft with a warm, corn-like flavor. It reminded me of those old cream of wheat breakfasts my dad made before sunrise, before heading out to work the fields. Funny how something once meant for birds is now feeding my heart. Millet has a low glycemic index, which means it doesn't hit your blood like a sugar punch. It comes in slow and smooth, like molasses in the winter. I've made it part of my lunch, usually with a few green peas and shredded chicken. My glucose meter tells a story. No peaks, no crashes. And that steady energy? It's something I never thought I'd feel again after 65. These days, I can rake leaves or walk the pasture without needing a nap right after. What really surprised me, though, was what millet does for the heart. It's full of magnesium, the mineral that helps relax blood vessels and lower blood pressure. I used to get that tight band feeling across my chest if I overdid it. Now, I feel looser, calmer. The doc even lowered one of my meds. He couldn't believe it. Neither could I, to be honest. But I believe in results, and I believe God puts these natural helpers in our path when we're ready to receive them. Millet also carries a bit of silica, not the kind in sand, but the type that helps with rebuilding connective tissue. That means better joints, stronger ligaments, less creaking when I get up off the porch swing. My right ankle, which used to swell up like a balloon, has been quieter. I don't claim it's magic, but it's certainly been a help. A gentle one, the kind that sneaks up on you in a good way. Now I keep a small jar of millet in my pantry, next to the coffee. Every time I cook it, I think of my grandfather's garden, where nothing was wasted and everything had a purpose. Millet reminds me of that humble, old-fashioned, but strong where it counts, just like the people who raised us. Number 2, oats. The smell of oats in the morning always takes me back to my mother's kitchen. Steam rising, cinnamon in the air, and a wooden spoon clinking on the side of a dented pot. She used to say, "This'll stick to your ribs," and boy, was she right. I never knew back then that oats were doing more than just filling my belly. Turns out those humble flakes were fighting blood sugar, cleaning out cholesterol, and keeping my joints from turning to rust. God sure hides his blessings in plain sight. What makes oats special is something called beta-glucan, a fiber that acts like a sponge inside your gut. It soaks up extra sugar and grabs hold of bad cholesterol, flushing them out before they cause trouble. I tested this myself. For a whole month, I swapped my regular toast for a warm oat bowl with berries and a splash of almond milk. My sugar readings? Lower. My energy? More even. No more crashing at 11 a.m. like I used to during sermons at church. There's more, though. Oats are loaded with avenantamides. Strange name, I know, but they're little natural compounds that help calm down inflammation. For folks like me with stiff fingers and crackly knees, that's a blessing. I noticed on rainy days, my hands weren't throbbing like before. I could grip the mower handle, fold laundry, even open my own jar of pickles. Might sound small, but when you're over 60, that kind of independence feels like gold. I like to get creative with oats, sometimes in pancakes, other times blended into muffins with banana and walnut. My grandkids think it's just dessert, but I know better. It's medicine from the pantry, passed down through generations. And it's affordable, which matters when you're living on Social Security and watching every dollar. No need for powders or pills when a simple bowl of oats does the job right. I thank the Lord for giving us something so ordinary and yet so powerful. These days, oats aren't just breakfast. They're part of my routine, my rhythm. my return to feeling human again. If something so gentle can make that big a difference, I'll never overlook it again. Number 1, quinoa. The first time I heard of quinoa, I thought it was a typo. Quinoa? Never heard of it growing up in Tennessee. But one day at church, a lady from the Bible study brought a quinoa salad to the potluck. I almost didn't try it, but thank the Lord I did. It was light, nutty, and had a kick of lemon that danced on the tongue. I asked her what it was, and she said, "It's not just tasty. It's good for your blood and your bones." Turns out, she wasn't kidding. Quinoa is one of the only grains that's a complete protein, meaning it's got all the amino acids your body needs, just like meat or eggs. That's big news for folks like me trying to eat lighter, but still feel strong. I started having quinoa with roasted veggies and grilled chicken, and after a few weeks, something shifted. My blood sugar didn't swing up and down so much. I felt more even, more able, the kind of strength that sneaks in, steady and quiet. It's also rich in magnesium and potassium, minerals your heart craves as you get older. I noticed less pounding in my chest after long walks. My blood pressure even dipped a few points. When I told my doctor I'd been eating more ancient grains, she smiled and said, "Looks like you're going back to the beginning." Maybe that's what we all need sometimes. A return to the basics, the natural, the good things God planted in the earth. But what really won me over was what it did for my joints. I'd been waking up with stiff shoulders and knees that popped louder than popcorn. After adding quinoa into my dinners regularly, that morning stiffness didn't hang on as long. It didn't fix everything, but I could tie my shoes again without groaning. That alone felt like a small miracle. It reminded me that healing doesn't have to come in a rush. Sometimes it comes in a spoon. Now I cook quinoa on Sundays with garlic and olive oil, a sprinkle of rosemary, and a handful of chopped spinach. Feels like I'm feeding my body and my spirit at the same time. Looking down at that warm bowl, I'm reminded that it's never too late to feel a bit stronger, even after 60. We've been through a lot. Our hearts, our joints, our faith, but some things like quinoa help rebuild it all one bite at a time. Sometimes, healing doesn't come with sirens or big announcements. It comes with a warm bowl of something humble, like farro or oats, resting in your hands on a quiet morning. These 7 grains might not look like much at first glance, but they've been feeding hearts and steadying blood sugar long before we ever heard the word superfood. They're not magic, but they are faithful. And in this season of life, I've learned that faithfulness, not flash, is what gets us through. If you've been feeling tired, stiff, or frustrated with your numbers, you're not alone. I was there too, watching my sugar creep up, my knees stiffen, my hope fade little by little. But then came these quiet changes. Simple switches at the dinner table. Grains that don't just fill your belly, but gently remind your body how to work like it used to. That's no small thing. And I believe the Lord gave us these foods to remind us. It's never too late to begin again. I'm not saying these grains will fix everything overnight, but they can be the start of something better. Try adding just one to your meals this week. Maybe some barley in a soup, or oats instead of toast. You don't need to do it all at once. Just one small step. Talk to your doctor, especially if you're on medication, and see what fits best for your needs. These grains aren't just for trendsetters. They're for folks like us who still believe in quiet miracles. I look back now and smile at the changes. Not dramatic, not loud, just steady strength coming back, one bowl at a time. I'm grateful for every bite to help my hands open jars, my legs walk longer, my heart beat calmer. We may not run marathons anymore, but we can live with dignity, strength, and peace. That's worth more than gold. And sometimes it starts with a spoonful of something old and true. Take care of yourselves, and God bless y'all. May every meal bring comfort, strength, and the quiet joy of knowing you're still rebuilding, one grain, one day, one blessing at a time.